We are witnessing the most terrifying spectacle in modern political history, the complete voluntary abdication of American leadership while the world literally burns. Donald Trump has gone mute. On a Sunday defined by blood, terror, and chaos, the President of the United States is missing in action. His silence is not a strategy. It is a symptom of a collapsing regime that can no longer manage the fires it has helped ignite. While his world falls apart, and frankly, while the global order disintegrates into violence, the man who claims to be the savior of Western civilization hasn't uttered a word to address the tragedy. The last time Donald Trump communicated with the American people was over 15 hours ago. And what was he doing? Was he mourning the dead? Was he offering solace to a grieving nation? No. He was posting photos of himself standing next to Christmas trees, a bizarre, narcissistic ode to his own ego in the middle of a school shooting at Brown University. Since then, nothing. Silence. He did not post this morning to acknowledge the horrific terrorist attack at Bondi Beach in Australia, where a group of Jewish individuals celebrating the first night of Hanukkah were slaughtered by terrorists, 12 dead, many more injured. And from the White House, a vacuum. This silence is deafening because it stands in such stark contrast to the noise of his usual disinformation. Yesterday, regarding the Brown University shooting, Trump was quick to speak when he could spread lies. He told the American public that the shooter was in custody, a fabrication that gave false hope and sowed confusion. Today, while authorities are speaking with a person of interest, we know that Trump's premature victory lap was just another hallucination. But now, faced with the reality of the bloodshed, 2 dead at Brown, 16 dead in Australia, he retreats into the shadows. This is the behavior of a coward, not a commander-in-chief, and the world is noticing. Look at the response from real leaders. The Prime Minister of Canada, while we are silent, wrote, horrified by the anti-Semitic terror attack that has stolen the lives of innocent people at a Hanukkah event. Canada stands with the people of Australia and Jewish people everywhere in sorrow and determination. That is how a leader speaks. President Zelensky of Ukraine, a man literally fighting a war for his nation's survival, found the time to issue a statement of solidarity saying, terror and hatred must never prevail. But Donald Trump, he is paralyzed. And it is not just incompetence, it is a sign that the walls are closing in. We are seeing the psychological decomposition of a leader who realizes his tricks no longer work. A new NBC News poll has just dropped, and it reveals the structural collapse of his power base. Among those who identify as MAGA Republicans, his Praetorian Guard, his most fanatical supporters, his approval has plummeted to 70%. That sounds high until you realize it used to be near universal. He has lost 30% of his own base. Among regular Republicans, his approval is a dismal 35%. The myth of his invincibility is shattering. And while his support evaporates, the terror spreads. In Australia, amidst the horror of Bondi Beach, we saw true heroism. Not from a politician, but from a man named Ahmed al-Ahmed, a Muslim father who risked his life to save his Jewish neighbors, physically disarming one of the shooters. That is the reality of human solidarity that Trump tries to destroy with his rhetoric. Trump wants you to believe in a war of civilizations, but when the bullets fly, it is ordinary people saving each other while he hides in his golf club, plotting his next grift. The world is not just laughing at us anymore. They are moving on without us. And the danger is that as Trump's world falls apart, he will lash out. He is losing the narrative. He is losing his base. And when a demagogue loses his audience, he becomes most dangerous. We are currently living through a leadership vacuum that is inviting chaos from every corner of the globe. From the beaches of Sydney to the campuses of Rhode Island, the message is clear. You are on your own. The president is not coming to save you. In fact, he might be the one holding the gasoline. But this silence is only the first crack in the dam. What is happening behind the scenes with our allies in Asia is even more catastrophic. And in the next segment, I will expose the fake deals and the diplomatic humiliations that are pushing us toward a new, undeclared war. You cannot afford to look away. If the silence from the White House is terrifying, the noise coming from our so-called diplomatic victories is a lie. We are being sold a fantasy of peace through strength, while the reality is chaos through incompetence. Donald Trump's entire brand is built on the art of the deal, but when you peel back the layers of propaganda, you find that there are no deals. There is only fraud, and nowhere is this more evident and more dangerous than in Southeast Asia right now. Thailand, our oldest treaty ally in the region, is currently pursuing an offensive against Cambodia. This is a flashpoint that could ignite a regional war. And what did Donald Trump do? He claimed he had solved it. He went on television and told the American people, "I got them to agree to a ceasefire because I dangled some trade in front of them. I told them we'd give them some of that American money." It was classic Trump, transactional, arrogant, and completely false. The response from Thailand was immediate and humiliating. The Thai leader publicly stated that Trump's claims were utterly false. He went further, saying, "We regret and were disappointed by the points made by Trump. We are proud to be the oldest treaty ally. Stop treating us like this." Think about that. A sovereign nation, a critical ally, is telling the American president to stop lying about their internal affairs. They are saying, "We are not your vassals. You cannot buy us with vague promises of cash." This echoes what we heard from Prime Minister Modi of India recently. The global south is revolting against Trump's neo-colonial bullying. And it's not just geopolitics, it's the corporate grift as well. Remember the TikTok deal? The media paraded it as a masterstroke. Trump told us that he and Xi Jinping had made a deal that his buddies were going to take over TikTok and that the algorithm, the most powerful psychological tool on the planet, would be controlled by Americans. He said, "I got a deal." It was a lie. All of his deals are fake. There are no signatures. There is no documentation. It is performative governance. Now we are seeing the fallout. U.S. investors, the very billionaires Trump promised would feast on this carcass, are in limbo. Frank McCourt, a billionaire bidder, told the BBC, "We're just standing by, left in limbo." Why? Because Xi Jinping has totally outmaneuvered Donald Trump. Xi looks at Washington and sees weakness. He sees a president who can be bought with flattery and confused by silence. Xi is not going to hand over the algorithm. He knows he doesn't have to. He knows that all he has to do is withhold rare earth elements or stop buying soybeans, and Trump will fold. We are watching the utter disintegration of American credibility. Trump posts about victories that do not exist to cover up defeats that are all too real. In Germany, 5 men were arrested for plotting a vehicle attack at a Christmas market. In Thailand, the war drums are beating, and in the United States, the president is focused on golf courses. Yes, while the world burns, Donald Trump is interrupting interviews with the Wall Street Journal to take calls about taking over public golf courses in Washington, D.C. He has issued a notice of default to the city's public courses, inventing a pretext to seize them so he can turn them into Trump-branded properties. This is his priority. Not the dead in Bondi Beach, not the students at Brown, but the acquisition of real estate. He is looting the public trust to expand his private empire. The Wall Street Journal reporter noted that Trump seemed uncertain that his economic policies would translate to votes. He admitted, "I cannot tell you how that's going to equate to the voter." He knows, deep down, he knows the grift is running out of steam. He knows that you cannot eat a press release about a fake ceasefire. He knows that you cannot pay rent with a lie about TikTok. We are being led by a man who is simultaneously a tyrant and a phantom. He is everywhere on social media, yet nowhere when leadership is required. He claims to control the world, yet he cannot even control the narrative of his own allies. The Thailand debacle is not just a diplomatic error. It is a signal to every adversary we have. It tells them that the American president is a liar who can be safely ignored. And as our influence evaporates, our enemies are emboldened. But if you think the diplomatic failures are bad, wait until you hear about the direct sale of our national security. In the next segment, I will unravel the NVIDIA chip scandal, how Trump is literally selling the technology that will be used to defeat us, all for a cut of the action. This is not just incompetence, it is treason for profit. We have arrived at the stage of imperial collapse where the looting becomes formalized. It is no longer just about incompetence or diplomatic blunders. It is about the direct, transactional sale of American survival to the highest bidder. Donald Trump is not just failing to protect the country, he is actively selling off its defenses for a commission. Let's talk about the H200 NVIDIA chips. These are not consumer electronics. They are the absolute apex of artificial intelligence hardware. They are the brains behind the next generation of cyber warfare, autonomous weapons, and surveillance systems. They are a national security asset of the highest order. And what has Donald Trump done? He has handed them to China. Trump brags about this. He says, "All right, we'll give it to you." And why? Because he claims the United States gets a 25% cut. Think about the insanity of this. The President of the United States is acting like a fence for stolen goods, selling our most critical technological advantage to our primary strategic adversary for a fee. And China? They are laughing. Xi Jinping takes the chips, says thank you, and hands them directly to Huawei, the very company we have spent years trying to sanction and isolate. They will reverse engineer this technology. They will copy it. They will use it to build systems that can shut down our power grids and blind our military. And we gave it to them. We expedited the process. Trump thinks he is a genius businessman, but he is selling the rope that will be used to hang us. He is trading long-term existential security for short-term revenue that likely vanishes into the black hole of the budget or worse, into the pockets of connected interests. This is the definition of a national security threat, yet the America First crowd is silent. They are cheering as he sells the castle gate to the barbarian army because he got a good price on the hinges. And the world sees this corruption. They see a chaotic, greedy, unreliable America, and they are voting with their feet. Look at the tourism numbers. This is a metric of soft power, and it is crashing. The number of Europeans traveling to the U.S. has cratered under Donald Trump. It started with Canada, leading a de facto boycott of U.S. tourism. But now it is everyone. Denmark, Germany, the U.K., Sweden, Spain. Tourism from these nations is down 30 to 40%. Why? Because people do not want to visit a police state. They do not want to be harassed by ICE. They do not want to be subjected to the chemical warfare of tear gas and brutality that has become the hallmark of American law enforcement under this regime. They don't want to deal with the fascism. They look at America and they don't see the shining city on a hill. They see a dystopian reality show that they want no part of. They are taking their money and their respect elsewhere. We are isolating ourselves. We are building a wall, not just on the southern border, but around our entire economy, keeping the world out while we rot from within. This isolation is what happens when you turn a superpower into a pariah. And while the tourism industry bleeds billions, Trump is obsessed with petty grievances. He is fighting a legal battle to ban sign language interpreters from his events. The Department of Justice is actually arguing in court that having a sign language interpreter intrudes on Trump's ability to control his image. Let that sink in. The presence of a person helping the deaf community understand the president is seen by Trump as a violation of his aesthetic. It is cruel, it is ableist, and it is deeply revealing of a man who views human beings only as props for his vanity. He cares more about the image of his speeches than the content of his character. He cares more about seizing golf courses in D.C. than stopping the seizure of territory in Southeast Asia. We are watching the moral and functional dismantling of the state. The institutions are being repurposed to serve the ego of one man, while the actual functions of government, security, diplomacy, economic stability, are auctioned off or abandoned. The Trump trade is a lie. The peace deals are a lie. The only truth is the grift. And as the money dries up and the polls collapse, the desperation will grow. We are entering the most dangerous phase of this presidency, where the selling off of assets shifts to the selling off of people. In the final segment, I will show you the ultimate moral abyss, how Trump is rehabilitating terrorists for praise, ignoring the mutilated victims of war, and how his propaganda machine is trying to blind you to the truth. The empire is dying, but the resistance to this madness must begin with seeing the reality clearly. We are now staring into the moral abyss of a regime that has lost all tether to humanity. It is not just the silence in the face of tragedy, it is the active rehabilitation of monsters. We have reported on this, but it bears repeating because it is so grotesque it defies belief. Donald Trump has brought the former leader of al-Qaeda in Syria, a man now calling himself President Ghilani or Ahmed al-Shara, into the fold. This is a man whose organization has American blood on its hands. And what does Trump do? He doesn't demand justice. He fawns over him. He literally sprayed cologne on the man. He called him handsome. We now know that the Americans killed in Syria were killed by fighters linked to this man's government. We have footage circulating from Deir ez-Zor showing his fighters chanting songs associated with Hamas and referencing Gaza. These are the people Trump is embracing. He is washing the blood off their hands with perfume because they stroke his ego. It is a betrayal of every soldier who fought, every family who lost a loved one to terror. It is the ultimate desecration of the office of the presidency. And while he embraces terrorists, he ignores the victims of the wars he encourages. Look at Gaza. There is a story right now that literally 0% of the right-wing media is covering. Gaza amputees are struggling to rebuild their lives as the enclave faces a catastrophic shortage of prosthetic limbs. Thousands of children, men and women, missing arms and legs, abandoned by the world. Trump's media machine will not show you this. They want you to see a sanitized version of the world where American strength is beautiful and the suffering of the innocent does not exist. They flood the zone with lies to hide these truths. They distract you with culture wars and golf course acquisitions so you don't look at the stumps of children in Gaza or the coffins in Bondi Beach. It is a deliberate strategy of information warfare waged against the American mind. They want you cynical. They want you exhausted. They want you to believe that nothing matters so that they can steal everything. But we refuse to be blind. We refuse to let the propaganda infect our minds. The Midas touch of this administration is a curse. Everything they touch turns to rot. Look at Lindsey Graham using the horrific attack in Australia to attack the idea of a Palestinian state. He politicizes the dead before they are even buried. He says recognizing Palestine is rewarding killing Jews, a grotesque simplification designed to perpetuate conflict, not solve it. Even Rand Paul is warning that Trump's threats of regime change in South America will bankrupt us. There is no amount of money that can be printed to pay for that, he says. When even the libertarians are screaming that the emperor has no clothes, you know the end is near. We are living in a time where to be a patriot is to be a dissident. To love your country is to hate what it has become under this leadership. The polls show the cracks. The world leaders show the isolation. The streets show the anger. But the most important battleground is your own attention. They rely on you looking away. They rely on you accepting the silence. Do not give them that satisfaction. The corporate media acts as a stenographer for power, refusing to tell you the story of the amputees, the chip sales, the fake deals. They want you asleep. We refuse to be silent. If you demand the truth about the collapse of the American empire, if you refuse to be blind to this decay, then you must take a stand here. Subscribe to this channel. Join the resistance against the dying of the light. We will not look away. We will document every lie, every sale, every silence. The world is falling apart, but we do not have to fall with it. Stay with us. The truth is our only weapon left.